We really hope you. The greatest power you possess is your ability to choose. Join Lowe's Moore as he reveals how you can begin to maximize that power by exploring yourself on the deepest levels and committing to making lasting and positive changes. Get ready to achieve breakthroughs that will lead to accelerated growth and transformation because you are now tuned in to The Blueprint.
Why they actions contradict the lamb. I'm fellowshipping when I'm with the fam. That's more relations, that's forming a phonic.
Good evening and welcome back, and welcome to a new year on the Blueprint podcast. I mean, wow! I looked at the beginning of this, the intro, and I'm thinking like 4 years. Where did time go? I mean, I remember starting, right? And I have to say this up front. I have no best season. All my seasons have been my favorites. I have enjoyed each and every one of them. You start something out, you don't know how long it's going to last. You don't even know, even though you're excited about starting it, whether you're even going to like it or whether ultimately you will love it. I mean, and I can say after 4 years in the start of season 4, man, I truly enjoy coming on the Blueprint. I enjoy, all the support that I receive each and every week. And I want to say thank you. Thank you for your support over these 4 seasons. It's been amazing ride. I didn't know, I guess over the years, I've been able to, as a communications major, a degree in communications, and I guess when you speak and you go out and do presentations, that's a part of communications. I think I may have, in my studies, thought about a different idea of what communication is. But I finally, through the podcast, I really got a sense of the degree that I have and the power of communication, and particularly the power of words. So I'm excited to be back with you again for a new season. This is truly amazing, and I'm excited tonight. So looks like we're having a little technical difficulties here in season 4, but we'll get through it. We'll get past it. And man, again, I want to say thank you guys. And if you don't mind, if you're on YouTube, you remember we're on Lowe's Moore the Blueprint on Facebook, and Lowe's Moore the Blueprint on YouTube. And if you're on YouTube, if you don't mind liking and subscribing, it'd be greatly appreciated. I mean, again, thank you so much. Man, I've had some amazing guests over the last 4 years. I mean, all of them have been marvelous. I mean, this is just tremendous. And each and every week, I always talk about either I'm dropping a pebble, right? I'm dropping a pebble in a pond because I'm expecting a ripple effect, whether it be tonight you're watching or somewhere down the road when you pick up on one of the stations, either on Facebook or YouTube, you pick it up and you listen to my guests and you listen to the interview and you see that there's something on there that's practical that you could apply to your life, man. That it may be something that you may hear or something that you see or something that is said that might push you in the direction that you need to go, because all of us are really extremely talented. All of us extremely blessed. All of us have tremendous God-given gifts, right? And man, we just want you to grow. We want you to find them, and we want you to move in the direction that God wants you to move into. And so again, Thank you. Appreciate you guys. Welcome to season 4 of the Blueprint Podcast. Let me start like this. I'm going to show you my book of the week, right? And I want to show you this video as well. This is Between the Lines with Ernie Bonds. Many of you don't know Ernie Bonds, but you will in a minute, right? All of us have had some contact or some information about Ernie Bonds. For me, he was a tremendous NFL football player, just an amazing football player, but he was more than a football player. So check out this video and learn a little bit more about Ernie Bonds.
So JJ is an illustration of a young version of you.
In a sense.
I'm Dave Price, and here's the story.
Here's the story of my art.
You're looking at a James Evans original. I paint's part impressionistic.
You made me ugly.
That part is right on.
Tell me about how your relationship with Norman Lear started, how your work came to appear on Good Times.
Norman and I had a conversation related to the exhibition I was having. He said, I have an idea for you to do the paintings for this kid we have that we are developing.
I want you to behold the latest J.J. Evans masterpiece.
So this is part of the collection of The Beauty of the Ghetto.
Yes, and all of these images were used at one time or another on Good Times.
Sugar Shack, which is probably your most well-known piece.
Yes, lots of movement. And I think if I'd taken a little bit more time, I could have gotten some more people in here, too. The beauty of the ghetto not only defined how and in what ways black was beautiful, but it gave a sense of pride, a sense of community.
Now, painting is your thing, ain't it? Well, I want it to be.
We saw The Graduate so often featured on Good Times.
I mean, it qualifies JJ to a great degree in terms of his education, in terms of what maybe he wanted to do with his art.
Ernie, you were once a professional football player.
Right.
And now you're a world-renowned artist.
I mean, being an athlete helped me to formulate an analysis of movement. And movement is what I wanted to capture on canvas more than anything else. I can't stand a static canvas. It's necessary for these people to be caught in that action.
In this artwork and many of your other paintings, the eyes are closed.
I've closed the eyes of the people I painted because of our blindness to one another's humanity. Those things are present, are signature pieces in my paintings just because of my makeup as a human being.
Now, I've heard this story that on one occasion you were on the field and you looked up at the sky and you said, oh, that sky is... Tell me the story.
There was a fight on the field.
Right.
And when I looked up, the sun was hitting the light portions of the uniform. I said, boy, what a contrast, And I said, that's pretty nice. I think it's time for me to get out of this game. Yeah.
With everyone that looked at JJ and said that art is beautiful, didn't that give you a certain sense of satisfaction?
I think the fact that Norman made him an artist invigorated and gave a sense of self-esteem to many kids who watched that show.
Students, come over here and feast your eyeballs upon my painting.
What art is the most complete and intense form of expression of the inner life. As such, it has the capacity to change. It has the capacity to elicit, to bring forth points of view that people can grow from.
I'm Dave Price, and that's the story.
Wow, and that's my book of the week. If we can bring that back up again, Ernie Bonds. If you didn't know, you've seen these pictures. We watched Good Times, and we've seen amazing artwork. Just amazing, man. When I found out, and I've known for years that Ernie Bonds was a tremendous artist, and I really appreciated that most of his artwork, most people had their eyes, he painted their eyes closed because, like he said, we were blinded to what's going on in terms of humanity. And that's why I appreciate his artwork. Can't afford any of it right now. But, if you're looking for a piece, man, I think he's got an auction coming up on some of the things that he has. Be on the lookout for it. If he ever sets up in a museum, I would like, number one, in New York, I would love to go see his artwork. So that's my book of the week. And here is my word of the week. And the word of the week is artist. Last week, I think I used the word enjoy, right? And I mentioned art as well, or artists as well. And of course, there's many forms of art or being an artist. Like last week, I had Neil Berger on, who's a composer, director of several off-Broadway plays, The Grumpy Old Man, and he was on talking about his experience in the world of art and theater. And then today, I actually, have a person who's I call probably the triple threat, right? We have three things we could do well, three things we could do great. And, I'm not going to bring them up now, but the word of the week is artists, right? And then artists, right? Okay. And then here's my Hill and Pierce Harper affirmation moment. It says, your results are an expression of your level of awareness, right? Most of the time, we're just not aware of the gifts and purpose we have in our lives, right? It's good to be aware, right? It's important to be aware. And this is my affirmation and quote of the week. And then here's my music and also my movie of the week. I mean, I don't know if you guys remember Sammy Davis Jr. He was a triple threat. I mean, he can sing, dance, and act, right? And one of my favorite songs of, Sammy Davis Jr. is a few of them. I'm probably dating myself, but one of them was the Candy Man, right? And then the other one was Mr. Bojangles. I mean, if you get a chance to go to YouTube and look up Sammy Davis Jr. and watch him sing and perform, Mr. Bojangles is amazing. I mean, he does amazing, with that particular piece. And then, of course, the master of dance, Gregory Hines, right? He did the movie Bojangles, and he did an excellent job, man. May they both rest in peace, man. God, man, blessed us with tremendous gifts when they were here on earth, and they have been a blessing to me, and I'm sure to many others. So check those things out. Sammy Davis Jr., Mr. Bojangles, and Bojangles with Gregory Hines, my music and movie of the week. Man, let me get into some shout outs and some congratulations right now. Man, as we pop them on the screen, I'll just go for it. I want to say happy birthday to Elder Marion Archer. Tremendous. Last night we had an opportunity to go to the award ceremony for the Revelators. And man, we had a great time. Man, Marion has been in this ministry of dance for 45 years. Man, started out with African dance, one of the first persons to actually take gospel praise dance into the church. And now, man, she's broadened the scope, man, doing plays. I think she has an upcoming play. I think she's doing it again. She's doing The Wiz. I'm looking forward to it. And man, you see them young ladies, all them young ladies, young men back there, man, so talented. And a lot of them, man, I was really, I've been retired for a few years now. And a lot of them were like babies, man, like elementary school babies when I was at the Boys and Girls Club. And 3 or 4 years later, I looked at them and I was like, man, they like beautiful young women. I mean, wow, she's doing a tremendous job. If you hear something about the Revelators, please be supportive, right? We want it to last another 45 years, right? Hey, I just had a great time last night. So we salute them. And then congratulations we got Pastor or Apostle Connell, as well as Reverend Troy DeCohen, Pastor Charles Clayton, of course, my beautiful wife, Patrice Moore, and also myself. We were honorees at the dinner last night, and we had a wonderful time and truly appreciate honoring. But man, the revelators need to be honored. They have been amazing, and they have brought so much joy. Man, last night I got so much energy from their energy. And keep up that great work. Looking forward to seeing so much more from you guys, and love you all. And then Zamaria, this is my great niece, right? I want to say congratulations to her. She graduated yesterday. Oh, I think it may have been Friday. I think it's Friday. She graduated Friday. Man, I remember when she was little, and now she's graduating and on her way to college. I want to say congratulations to you. And then I want to say congratulations to Dr. Natalie Murray. I mean, she was on, as you see the picture to my left. She was on my wife's basketball team. I was helping to coach back then as well. You know, I spent a few minutes, trying to get her to learn the game a little bit, man. She always worked hard. She was always focused. And now, congratulations. She graduated, and she's going to be a doctor, man. That's what I'm talking about, man. Hey, use the basketball to become a doctor. That's awesome. And say congratulations to her and her family as well, doing a tremendous job raising an amazing young lady. And then I want to say, wow, happy anniversary to my Aunt Dolores, right, and my Uncle Strick. Man, enjoy yourself, man. Treat yourself. Go out and get something to eat. Too bad you're not up here. I got the perfect restaurant to send you to. But anyway, happy anniversary. Love you guys. Wow, this is my person of the week. Man, if you love jazz, I really wasn't into it that much as a kid, right? But I wasn't into jazz all that much. But when George Benson came along, a Pittsburgh guy, and when I first heard George play the guitar, I was like, oh my God, who is that? Man, his album Breezin', and man, on Broadway. I got a chance to go down to the concert in Pittsburgh when I was at West Virginia University and to check out George Benson. And man, he was truly amazing on that guitar, man. He was just, but he's my person of the week. Man, I think he even bought a small little island in Hawaii. Man, George Benson, my person of the week. And then I'm looking forward to next week as well. And we have my special guest, Richard Dolphin. Hey, he's a recording artist, reverend, motivational speaker, community organizer, activist, and a young mentor, right? I'm looking forward to having him on the show next week. Join me next week. But now, man, let's get to the start of the show.
The best meals I've ever had have been with friends. It was just that camaraderie and just feeling comfortable in that space and just, breaking bread together. I was born in Trinidad, so what I've decided to do with our menu is take the dishes that people are familiar with in some of the fine dining restaurants and incorporate our seasonings and spices in it. They all have the Caribbean Southern seasonings to them. Prior to opening Alvin and Friends, I lived in Los Angeles and we had this restaurant and I just felt like everybody should be treated as a celebrity if you come into my restaurant. So that's what I do here. That's part of the draw of Alvin and Friends. We came to New Rochelle, my wife and I and our kids, 15 years ago. And the one thing that was the most attractive to us here was the community at large. It felt like America, very diverse. And I really feel that there's something really special happening in this town. A lot of people give us credit for being that spark that started the downtown resurgence. It's really a community-based restaurant. The myriad of what America really is really here, and I think that's the thing. And it's the sound of people just having conversations with their families. It's a beautiful thing. My name is Alvin Clayton. I'm the owner of Alvin and Friends, and this is my new Rochelle.
Wow, I want to welcome Alvin to the Blueprint. What's up, man? First, I want to say, man, again, thank you for taking time out your busy schedule, man. Last week we talked and you said, I'm going away to a reunion, and for you, I'm going to make it back here. Yeah. And you did. So I want to say thank you, man, because you probably could have stayed a little longer, hung out a little longer, but you made it back to get on the Blueprint with me. So thank you.
Well, all right. First of all, let me thank you and congratulations, man. 4 years, man. The time did fly. I remember when you started doing it, and you're doing it, man. And listen, I've been sitting back here, just kind of like looking at the vibe of the show, man. It's grown. It's beautiful, man, and so inspirational. Like, and all the things on your show today were like some of my favorite things, man. I love Sammy. I love Ernie Barnes. I knew this story about, the paintings and stuff. And so it's like, it's incredible. And now you're right. If you can, anybody can afford this paintings now, get it now, because trust me, it's already, I think a piece went for something like $15 million earlier this year.
That's right. Yeah. And I think the one that he was talking about, the Sugar Shack, I think Eddie Murphy got it.
Okay.
Yeah, somebody said Eddie Murphy had it, but if he paid $15 million,
it might have been more, but it's like, but I know it went very high, and I know it was like a bidding war for it, because right now African American art is the most seeked after art. I mean, it should have been a long time ago, but at least it's happening now, and so it's everybody's trying to invest in Black art, which is great.
Oh yeah, and we have before we even bought our home, we had Black art. we had I mean, in storage. Before we bought the house, we bought the paintings, and we wanted to imagine what would be in the living room, and what would be in the den, and what would be in different places. So when we got into either the apartment and then the house, we already had the stuff. We was already set up.
That's the way to do it, man. And the thing is, when you see a piece of art that you like, grab it up, because somebody else is going to pick it up. It's and if something that I tell people, when you look at art, right, and it does something to you, that it's always going to do that to you. It's like music, hearing a certain song that spurs some kind of emotion in you. The same thing with art. You look at it and you can't really, if you can afford it, there's no real value to put on it, because you're going to wake up day over day looking at that piece of art, and it's going to bring a certain joy or an emotion to you. That's a priceless thing to have, man.
Yeah, and the other part I like it is because not only for you, but you can pass it on.
Absolutely.
And it could keep going. Yeah, I mean, you can keep passing it on for generations to generations.
People ask me sometimes, right, because with my art, they're like, well, how do you know how to invest in a piece of art? And I say, you know what? The first and most important element is, do you like the piece of art, right? Because that joy is, like I said, is priceless. But another thing you can do, you ask a young artist or whatever, what do you think you're going to be doing in 10 years, 20 years? If that person said they're going to be doing their art, then that's a serious person. And so that sometimes is the catalyst that helps you to actually get a piece of art, because artists keep growing as the more they paint, right? And so that piece of art that you're passing on to someone that you might have paid $500 for, $1,000 for, 10 years, 20 years, that's good. The value on that with an artist that's working as a working artist till he dies, the value is just going to keep going up on that if it's a piece of art you like. So that's like the best way. But the first and foremost is, do I like this piece of art and what does it do for me? And that, like I said, becomes priceless.
Yeah, awesome. And recently you were involved in the Hamptons.
Yes.
And talk a little bit about that before we digress.
Yeah. So I was last weekend, actually, Memorial Weekend. I was invited to be a part of a show in the Hamptons called Art and Soul, and the woman that's put it together, I think this was the 3rd anniversary of it, Yaya Reyes. You know, she invited me to be a part of the show, and I showed out there. It was on the Shinnecock Reservation, and I actually, it was last minute, but I got into the show, and there was a few people that I knew that were going to be there that I wanted to meet. And one of them was the woman that runs Miss Simmons. She runs the African American Art Museum out in the Hamptons. And so anyway, she came to the show. She saw my work, and you know, we made a connect, man. She loved my work. And so one of the seeds that was planted there is that next summer we're talking about me being the featured artist at the museum, which was my main goal for being out there. So God blessed me with that, man. So I'm really excited about doing that. It's going to be a good show. It's going to be a good show because I got some pieces that I've actually painted that I said are museum worthy. That, you know, they were large pieces, and I haven't really put them out in public yet. And
right.
So I'd love to show those. And she was in communication and in cahoots with me with having to show those pieces. So I'm really excited about that.
Yeah, definitely. You know what I was thinking about since we're talking about art. You know, I always tell young people sometimes when I was growing up, I wasn't very I don't know. I think I lived in fear, man, or I was shy, you know, because shyness is a form of fear, you know. So, you know, I really wasn't in tune to school. You know, it just wasn't working for me. And I'm talking about elementary school. So, you know, but one of the things that kept me engaged a lot was my art teacher. Right. And I didn't know if I was going to be good at art, but it was the way she treated me.
Right.
You know, the way she allowed me to be creative, the way she allowed me to express myself. You know, I almost went to look for I got like a little portfolio, and I almost pulled out a couple of, you know, was thinking about pulling out a couple of pieces.
I'd like to see that, man.
you like to see that? Okay. I'm gonna have to show you that one day. And my wife could tell you, you know, sometimes you can't express like, you know, things to people verbally.
Yeah.
Right. So my wife and I, we were, when we first got together, we were separate. You know, she was still in college. I was playing professional basketball. And, you know, so I used to draw, you know, like Mickey talking to Minnie in a card, and, you know, right. And then I would send it to her, you know, and I have all these different cards that I used to draw. Right. Because I like the cartooning aspect of the art. Right. Yeah. And I haven't drawn anything in a while, but you know, that was always my passion. I always thought that I was going to in my way, she said, yeah, he was very romantic with his art. Yeah. So, you know, whenever I hear about artists, you know, it always, you know, stimulates me. It always brings something out of me, you know, because I appreciate the art.
Yeah. You know, but that's really interesting that you said, though, you know, like look at the person that got you to want to appreciate art, right? And it just shows you the power of teachers, you know. I mean, I talk to people all the time, and they have stories, and there's so many people that go into certain things because a particular teacher made them feel about that certain thing that brought their interest to it, you know. And so that's why I always say, man, it's like, you know, educators are like so important, and they can hurt, or they can you know, make us become better. And so the words and what they say to certain students is so important, you know, and knowing how to kind of how to motivate, because that's the biggest part, man. If somebody is showing that, you know, you're showing you a way to do something and it sparks an interest in you, it's limitless what we can do, you know, once we get interested.
Right. And yeah, I just love art, man. And everybody, I had one of my good friends, you know, kind of an older mentor from the boys club. He now lives in Italy. I had him on the show from Italy. And, you know, he does a lot of African art, you know, over in Italy, over here. And, you know, I just enjoy his pieces. I mean, you know, because his expression, his artwork is different. And he's been doing it for a long time. He's been gifted for a long time.
Right.
What an amazing, he didn't get the recognition, but what an amazing track athlete, you know, that went into the arts and now making a living. And he knows so many other artists that are doing so many wonderful things, particularly, you know, Black artists who are doing so many amazing things now. So, yeah, and we're going to get to more of the art, but I want to digress for a minute and want you to share a little bit about yourself. You know, growing up, mom, dad, family, and go from the past into the current, you know, wife and children and different things like that. Talk a little bit about how all this started, man.
Well, it all started, you know, in a little island called Trinidad and Tobago. You know, yeah. So now I grew up in Trinidad, man, and it was like one of the most incredible childhood, man. It's like the freedom of just being an island kid, you know, like we roam fields and stuff like that. Very strict, you know, family, but a lot of love too, you know, so the balance was there. You know, my mom separated from her husband, and, you know, she came over to the United States to, you know, like all immigrants, right, to try and make a better life for their kids. So we were left with 5 brothers and sisters. I'm the oldest, left with my grandparents, which was a great experience for me. I mean, my grandmother was my heart, so I love, you know. So my younger brother, who was like 2 years younger than me, my grandfather was a jack of all trades. He can build like a house from scratch. And so my brother was like always under my grandfather, and I was always under my grandmother. So I was in the kitchen with grandma, right? You know, you know, I get teased by my cousins and my brother. Yeah, you're a mama's boy, you know. But I was okay with that, right?
Right.
So anyway, so I left Trinidad when I was 14 years old. Came to meet my mom. I was the first one to come. Grew up in Washington, D.C., went to John Carroll High School there. You know, played soccer, was like all met. Got a scholarship at Mount St. Mary's University, where I played soccer. While I was there, a friend of mine that I went to college with, he was a model at Wilhelmina Modeling Agency, and he would go into summertime and do his gigs in New York. But whenever he came back, he always said, you know, Alvin, I think you could model, you know. But I wasn't really interested. Soccer goalkeeper, all state, all American in soccer in college, and got a letter of intent from San Diego Sockers to play soccer out there. Except the soccer, the popularity of it now wasn't what it was back then. It was still kind of like building. So the year that I actually was supposed to go out to try out was when the NASL, which was the outdoor soccer league at the time that they were using Pele and all these guys to try and form, folded. And so, you know, it was like just indoor soccer at that time. As a goalkeeper, I didn't want to play indoor soccer. So I took my friend, Colin was his name, took him up on an offer, came to New York, met the Wilhelmina Modeling Agency. You know, they told me how difficult it was for Black models, yada, yada, yada. Back then, you know, each agency had like maybe probably about, you know, 5, 6 Black models, right? You'd go in, and they'd say, "Oh, we already have your type." It was that kind of situation. But anyways, they said that they would give me a try. Everybody, male models back then, everybody wanted to go to GQ, because GQ was like the vogue for male models. I didn't want to go because I'm like, I saw models with great portfolios that weren't working for GQ. And here I am just starting. And I'm like, why would GQ want to book me? And so anyways, I waited about 6 months, felt comfortable with my portfolio. And then I came in, said to my agent, I said, listen, I think I'm ready to see GQ. So she made a call right there. It was lunchtime, I remember. She called them. The model editor said, yeah, I can come over right now. Went over and saw them. Had about a 5-minute meeting. They looked at my portfolio. Went back to Wilhelmina Modeling Agency. My agent was still there. She's like, so how did it go? I said, I think it went well. I said, she was very nice. Whenever looked at my portfolio. She goes, it must have went really well because they just book you for a job tomorrow. So I met the same day that I met them, they booked me for a job. And it was with Arthur Elgort, who was like at the time, like one of the top photographers, did a lot of Vogue covers and everything else. And so I worked with Arthur, but I had a dilemma because like every model I'd ever seen in GQ before, they had this stern look on their face, like, like somebody just stole something from them, right? So I'm like, am I supposed to give the GQ look or am I supposed to be, do me? Because the majority of the pictures in my portfolio were big smiles. I mean, that was my personality. So I said, you know what? They booked me. And so on the job, I was just gave me. I came back to the agency, had a great day with shooting with Arthur. It was supposed to be 4 pages. I came back to the agency. They asked me how everything went. I said it was a great day, love working with them. And actually, I worked with Louise Vienne, who was very top model. She has the 4 biggest selling covers of Self magazine. She's Black and Dutch. So she was like, for many years, she was like my model wife. Every time I did a GQ shoot, they paired us together. So I came back to the agency. They were like, okay, it must have went really well because they book you tomorrow again. And I got booked with, back then, the Benetton campaigns were the big campaigns. So when they booked me, it was with Olivero Toscani, who was shooting the Benetton ads. He was like Italian photographer, very well known. And they were supposed to be in separate issues. And for some reason, they came out in the same issue. So it was like the first time that a person of color had like 8 full pages in GQ.
Wow.
And that kind of just like made my career. So I went on to have like basically a 25-year modeling career. And I stopped for a while. And then I am like a few years ago with one of my art shows that I did at Iona. They got a wind of that. And they reached out to me and said, listen, we'd like to represent you because we're looking for people with platforms right now. And so I'm represented right now by IMG Modeling Agency.
Wow. Well, it's a job that keeps giving.
Yeah, right.
That keeps giving.
And in there somewhere, the restaurant thing came up.
Yeah. So you talk about, well, before then, talk about family now. I mean, because, I think one of the important things of the blueprint is number one, talking about family and the power and importance of family, talking about faith and the importance of faith, and also talking about the importance of education, which you have talked about, but talk about family in that light.
Yeah. Well, family is like one of the most important things to me, and family and trusted friends, and sometimes those two commingle, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
They're friends that I consider family, so I think having your support base. I know, people like our restaurant is very successful. My restaurant wouldn't be successful without my wife, Gwen. She is like, there she is, she is like the backbone, she's so supportive of everything that I've done, raising our family, trusting and believing in me. And, earlier I talked about my grandparents, and when you and I were off camera a bit, we talked about, the relationships and how we build, relationships and the examples of people that we see around us that are positive that we want to take. I mean, my grandparents, we had to go to church. My grandmother and grandfather were very spiritual people. Rules were set, boundaries were not crossed. There was a lot of love, but there was a lot of discipline as well. And so that's the foundation of you and I joked off camera because my grandma used to say, "Laugh and cry, live in the same house."
Right.
So you're laughing now, but you've been crying in a couple minutes, right?
That's right.
but that I think that base is what has brought me to where I am today too. It's like the base of having religion as a foundation builds up your integrity. And I know I give my success for everything that I am is the integrity, and that's one of my strongest value system. I'm my word. We're all chasing the dollar, but compassion for people is much more important than a dollar for me. And I think I learned that from my grandmother. She wasn't a rich woman, but financially, but she was rich in so many other ways, because somebody would be passing to go from their garden and would drop her, some provisions, or they went fishing, they'll drop her fish, and it's because of the way that she's treated them. And I've taken that and, put it in my life with how I deal with my kids. We're not allowed to quit things that we start. We're supposed to be our word. We care about people, and that is the foundation for the success of what I have, I believe. And I try to put that into how I run my restaurant as well. I greet all my guests, I want their experience to be one that is a great experience when they walk into my space.
Well, yeah, and one of the things in the intro, we showed the video. One thing I was, and of course I've been to the restaurant, a few times.
Honored, sir.
Yeah, and from the first time I think my wife and I, heard about Alvin and Friends, we went in. And you were in the other place, I think a little bit smaller.
All right, the smallest space on Lawton Street. Yeah.
Yeah, and we went there. It was very intimate, right? And I was impressed. You came up and introduced yourself. Said you were the owner, and I felt like privileged. I mean, the owner came out, and when you said in the piece about making everybody feel like a celebrity, it's powerful. It's important.
Yeah.
When the owner comes up, somebody takes the time, to greet you and say hello and ask you if everything is okay. I mean, that's powerful all by itself.
Yeah. I think we all want to be treated, with respect and dignity, right? And I know for me, when I go into a restaurant, man, like that first 10 seconds when I meet that host or hostess sets up my whole meal, And I tell my staff all the time, when people come into this restaurant, they had choices. They passed other places. They could Google, especially these days. You can Google any restaurant you want, right? And you have choices. And they chose to be in our restaurant. The least we could do is show the appreciation for what they do. And my whole thing is like coming into my restaurant is like coming into my home. I mean, I spend a lot of time there. So, if a guest comes into my house and I'm there, I greet them, right? And so I feel the same way with the restaurant. It's part of that. And I have a lot of repeat customers, man, that comes in and they tell me that all the time. They're like, Alvin, that it's like coming to see you, right? And you have the good food, you have the ambience and experience, but then you feel so welcome. You feel like if you're a part of something and a part of a family. And I think that's really important. And I think that's the market edge that we have with against a lot of other restaurants. But it's so genuine and easy for me to do because like I said, I learned that from being with my grandmother. You know, I never remember anybody coming into our home, even if it's a salesperson, that they sat down, she would offer them something, you know. So
yeah. Yeah, you can't get out with like some iced tea, a glass of water, some lemonade or something.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's important, man. And I think of another word when you talk about Alvin and Friends and success of any business is the ability to have good hospitality.
Absolutely.
You know, and I had read a book one time called the Church Mouse, where a guy who was a pastor studied the hospitality of Disney. And then he wrote a book about it, you know, how you treat, you know, how when people come into your church, right, the first person they really meet is the usher. You know, like going into a hotel.
Right. Yeah.
You know, somebody's gonna greet you. Right. They're either gonna give you a glass of water or offer you something, or, you know, can I help you? I'm like the DoubleTree. When I always go in there, I know I'm getting them warm chocolate chip cookies.
I love those too.
Yeah. So your hospitality is number one in my book.
Yeah, well, thank you. And I, you know, sometimes I'm at the restaurant and, you know, I walk by a table, right, and I see a table needs to be bussed. I mean, people are like surprised that I will be bussing their table, you know. But at the end of the day, in my head, I'm thinking, I want this guest to have the best experience that they can have, you know. So if that means me busting a table because it's my restaurant, I'll do that, you know. Or the hostess might be taking somebody to a table and somebody is standing in front of the desk and they're wondering, they'll see me out. I don't walk, I run over. I say, oh, did anybody acknowledge you yet? You know, because that's how I want to be treated when I go to a place, right? And people appreciate that. And you know, if you can't do that, you shouldn't be in the hospitality business. That's just my bottom line on it. You know?
Yeah, no, I mean, it's so important today, man, how you, and, you know, that was the whole thing of, you know, when people come in to the Boys and Girls Club, when I was there, you have to greet people. You tell the staff, hey, man, when they open that door, you know, excuse me, sir, you know, can I help you? What is that you need? You know, you have to treat people, you know, in terms of with the hospitality, you have to treat people nice.
Absolutely.
You know, regardless of how they approach you.
Yeah, exactly. And you know, that's a great point too, because like, you know, not everybody is like on the same page, right? And we have sometimes, you know, we have a myriad of different personalities and people that come in. And sometimes the people that are assumed most difficult, I give them the most love because, you know, I want to change your mindset, you know. I mean, and sometimes you can't, you know, people are just who they're going to be, but I'm not going to let them steal my joy or take away from what I do. You know, that's going to be on you. You know, it's like, I'm not going to let you take me where you're going. You know, I'm here. Like I said, I spend way too much time in that space to not love being there.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Yeah, definitely, without a doubt, man. You know, I ain't been in a minute, but I got to get over there.
Come on over, man. But you know, COVID kind of like put the kibosh on a lot of it, right? So I
don't think it put a kibosh on us because we were ordering.
Yeah.
And I don't even remember, like I think it's like is it a year? Maybe a little over a year ago. My daughter got engaged there. She had the
restaurant.
Yeah, you know, so we had the whole family there. She didn't know anything about it, man. You know, her husband now, you know, they married now, going on their first year. They just had a little girl 2 weeks ago.
Grandpa growing.
Yeah, the grandpa's growing. and man, it all started out in Alvin and Friends.
Right?
Yeah, I think we even had Miss Vera Burnett, God rest her soul.
Oh yeah.
We had our retirement piece
Yeah.
you know, her retirement party at the
Party in the
at
back in
Alvin
the
and
Roscoe
Friends.
room. Yeah, we named it
Yeah,
after
yeah.
Roscoe Lee Brown.
Yes.
Yeah, you know, the thing is too, like I was saying, you know, Gwen, my wife, is like such an integral part of that, and she handles like most of the parties, right? And she treats it, man, like, you know, like it's hers, right? Because she realized it's people's gemstones, man. These are milestone memories for people, and so she wants them to have the best experience. And I gotta say, you know, blessing, we've batted 1,000% on any event that we've had at that restaurant, because we really bring ourselves into it and caring. I mean, I hear her talking to people sometimes on the phone, like, so who's going to be in the room? You know, and, you know, us guys, we're like, very like, okay, 20 people. Okay, we got the table for you. You got that, you know, we'll give you the food. She's like, what's the favorite color flowers? And I'm like, Gwen, you got 2 more waiting in line.
No, details, you know,
man, because I see those people and they're like so happy, and, you know, they'll reach out and thank her, and it's appreciated, you know. So
yeah. Well, you know, interesting. You talk about your wife. You know, she was a part of the Boys and Girls Club family. That's when we first met. She was a part of the Newer Show Boys and Girls Club, and of course, I was with the Mount Vernon Boys and Girls Club. I think we were at a regional conference when we first met, and she was truly passionate about her service to the Boys and Girls Club of Newer Show. And I could see it all over her when we go to those regional things, and how much she cared about the kids and stuff like that. And then I heard, you know, she was you know, kind of walking away, you know, and I was like, what, you walking away, you know?
I needed her, man.
Yeah, my husband owns a, you know, restaurant and stuff like that. Your husband owns a restaurant, man. I think me and my wife got to get there, you know.
No, she still recalls that bonding that you guys had, man, and she was like, she spoke like so highly of you, you know. She met you before me, and you know, but I had heard about you before, because, you know, in the restaurant in LA that Denzel was associated with, and you guys are really good friends, and he had mentioned you because Gwen, you know, had talked to him about the Boys and Girls Club and stuff. But even though she's like not there in an official capacity, man, the love that she gives to that organization still is like real, you know. And do a lot of stuff still at the restaurant with the kids, and you know, they all remember Miss Gwen, you know.
Oh yeah.
Anywhere, man, you know, they show her the love. Like, it's her kids, you know. So love her.
And it was interesting. I was somewhere, and one of the kids saw me, said, Mr. Moore. He's like, you know, like a grown man. They're like, Mr. you know, Mr. Moore. And then last night, you know, with all the young ladies at the event, hey, Mr. Moore, where you been? You know,
yeah, man. Those guys are kids for life.
I know.
You guys make an impression, yeah. So.
Yeah, and then she, you know, one of the young ladies said, "Hey, Mr. Moore, you know, I'm going to high school. I'm 9th grade this year. You know, I'm at the Denzel Washington School, you know, of Performing Arts, and you coming by? Okay, on the 17th, we having something." I said, "Okay, I'm had to get there." Yeah. So, man, yeah, kudos to Gwen. She's amazing, man. Yeah, I'm sure those kids really missed her, man. Yeah, when she was gone, they look like the family.
Yeah, that's our 2 girls, Matisse and Bella. Yeah, Bella is a singer now, man, and there's Oliver, Matisse, and Bella. now they're all towering. Oliver is towering over me, and the girls are towering over Gwen.
Well, that's kind of where it is, though. You know, I don't know if we, you know, as we get older, we shrink. I don't know.
Yeah, I lost half an inch, man. I used to be 6'2".
Oh man, I didn't. You know, I knew I was gonna lose my vertical, but I just didn't know I was gonna lose my height.
I know.
Oh man,
family is everything, man. It's everything.
Yeah, and so let's go back a little bit to the art, side of it. I mean, before then, before we go there, talk a little bit about the experience that you had in the beginning. I mean, because you did a bunch of stuff. You would jump right to the modeling, but you didn't tell everybody like you were, a waiter, and how you got into the whole process of coming to love, really getting into the restaurant business.
So well, when you first start off modeling, the jobs, they're not all there all the time, right? So you have to do something because you got, those New York City rents, they ain't cheap, right? So,
no, it's not cheap.
Yeah. So anyway, so I worked as a waiter. I actually started as a busboy. I try to get to work as a waiter. I try to line my way into a good waitering job. But then, they tripped me up, right?
Yeah.
And so they're like, okay, you have the aptitude. I figured if I ate at a restaurant enough, I knew how to be a waiter. But it didn't go that way. So anyway, so I started at the Manhattan Ocean Club, which was Alan Stillman's restaurant. He owned Post and Walensky and the Manhattan Ocean Club on 57th Street. And so I worked there for a couple of years, back and forth doing the modeling and then doing that. And I really liked it, man. It's like, I got to meet a lot of new people. We had great clientele that came in there and stuff like that. And, being, knowing how to cook and stuff, it was like intriguing to me. I really enjoyed like being in that life. And then I was working with another model that I worked with quite a bit that was successful, Gail O'Neill. And Gail, her boyfriend was a restaurateur, Brad Johnson. And so she told me, she'd asked me a question. She's like, what would you like to do after modeling? And, this was like about 15 years into me modeling. And I said, no, after being off the workforce for such a long time, it's probably very difficult for me to go and get an entry-level job. It'd be like taking a demotion, right? After making the kind of money I was making in modeling. And so I said, I know how to cook, and not really knowing what the intricacies of actually being a restaurateur is, I said, hey, I'd probably open a restaurant. So her boyfriend, Brad, was actually about to open this restaurant in LA at the time. So she introduced me to Brad, and he took a liking to me and told me, hey, I'm working in this project. It's going to be in LA. Would you like to invest? So I invested in it, and turned out it was like a celebrity-based restaurant. So some of the owners were Debbie Allen, Norm Nixon, Denzel was a part of it, Eddie Murphy, and then this guy Alvin Clayton. So
just this guy Alvin Clayton.
so I kind of stepped into it, but the great thing was Brad and his father were out there in LA, and I kind of learned back of the house from them. I mean, Howard, his father, was the owner of the Cellar Restaurant in Manhattan, which is, very popular. Miles Davis, all those guys used to go in there, and Luther performed there. Keith Sweat got his start there. So that was like the go-to place. So these guys, they knew. And Brad had a couple other restaurants. He opened Roxbury in LA, which is very popular club. So he actually really knew the business of restaurateuring. And his mom, Phyllis, was like, did the operational part in the back room. So I kind of learned from Brad. I worked the restaurant at Georgia. I was like the host with the most, and that's why I saw, being in LA, you see the people in front of the camera, right? So you know who they are. So obviously they get all the attention. And I would notice that, other people were, not that they didn't take care of them, but they were in a different category. And at that point was when I said, you know what, if I have my own restaurant, I want everybody to feel like they're a celebrity. I don't care who they are, they're going to get the same treatment from me, So that's what I did when I was there. And Brad and I were a great team, man. He was friends with a lot of the celebrities. So, they obviously took his attention, right? And I just kind of made everybody else feel like, that they were that person. And
Right.
the restaurant did well for a while. Once we closed, that's when I moved back to New York, and we moved to New Rochelle, and I opened mine, going on our 15th year.
Yeah, and I think it was one important thing we talked about on a show we were on during the pandemic, and you were talking about the importance of why you wanted to own.
Yes, very important, because the restaurant that we had in LA, we didn't buy the building, and the building was up for sale. We weren't aware of it. It was sold, and then the new landlord, when he came in, the rents that he wanted, he thought he was going to be our partner. It's because the rent didn't make any sense at all. And so that was like a really good lesson that I learned, that you can go to the restaurant schools and stuff, but there's certain things that you go through, like operating a restaurant, that you probably will never learn, because it changes so quickly and dynamic. And so I said, whenever I open a restaurant, if I open a restaurant, I would want, if I have the ability to have ownership of it, I would definitely go for that. So I was fortunate enough the building that we do have, I actually, we bought, so we owned the building. And that was one of the things that actually got us through the pandemic, because we didn't have a landlord, breathing down. Because I don't even understand how some of the restaurants that made it, unless they had some kind of dealing with the owners or whatever, to be operating at 25%, where at some points that's what they were allowing you to have, and still paying 100% rent and everything else, it just doesn't add up,
Right. Yeah. And I thought that was important.
Yeah.
For people to know.
Yeah.
In terms of the importance and power of ownership.
Yeah. And and the other thing is, man, it's like, it's a Black-owned restaurant, in every way. And it's not just Black-owned, it's Black excellence in a lot of ways,
Right.
We've won the Best of Westchester for like about, I think, 13 to 14 years we've been open. We have a Black staff. They all, bring their best to what they do every day. And, we appreciate that. And, it's a very diverse restaurant with the clientele, but we make everybody feel special, man. And that's a big thing. And, and we teach as well, we teach ourselves and our customers, there's certain ways to speak to people, to ask for things, to be respectful. It's when you're dealing with human beings, right? Everything is not going to be 100% all the time, but it's the grace that you bring to whatever you do. Even if somebody makes a mistake, how to handle that. And the one thing that I tell people that come to our restaurant, something may not be perfect, but you'll know that we will try and do the best that we can to rectify it. And also we do bring our heart, and we do wish every time to give you the best experience. But we're human beings, and it doesn't always work out that way. But we should both have grace on both sides on how we deal with the matters, especially, Black people dealing with Black people in Black business. I think we need to be a little more mindful sometimes that we need to be better to each other and look out for each other in a lot of ways. And that's what I try to do with my staff. I teach my young staff. If I'm going through a difficulty at the restaurant, I make sure that they know, because I want one day for them to be owners. I'm not just teaching them how to be a waiter. I talk to my guys all the time. What can you do to be better? How can you move to the next level? I tell my young chefs, I'm like, okay, we're giving you a great experience here in New Rochelle, but where do you want to be? Go into the city. Even if a chef, a big organization won't pay you, say, can I do a couple hours of free service so that you can learn something else to become better than what we can give you here in New Rochelle or whatever. And that's the level of excellence that you have to go. You always have to be how can I get to the next level? You know,
Right.
what can I put on my resume to make me stronger? You know, so
Right. And and I think that's important too, is that sometimes, you know, we don't want anybody to stand on our shoulders. Right. But, you know, for me, as always, who's going to be the next Alvin Clayton?
Yeah,
Right.
absolutely.
And we need to be more Alvin Claytons, of course, there's White Plains, there's Nourish, there's Yonkers, there are different cities all over
Yeah.
that need restaurants. I mean, that needs somebody with a dream, to come in and play. So many people are doing it already. So, so that's powerful. I thank you for that. And one of the things is, occasionally I have a pop-on guest, right? And we're gonna get into some art after we have the pop-on guest. But I got my godson, my nephew, Michael George on, and he's trying to get into the modeling game. And he may have a few questions for you. So welcome, Michael.
Yes. How you doing, Michael?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good, man.
I'm good. So
got a good look. You got a good look.
Appreciate that. I actually just came from doing the photo shoot.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, that was cool. We did like 3 different backdrops, and
good.
Yeah, it was cool. I got some questions. I wanted to add, if you see me looking down a lot, that's because the questions are right here.
Okay, that's okay.
Yeah, I got the questions on this phone, and then the answer is gonna be in this phone. So, yeah. So it's to my knowledge that you started off with Wilhelmina, right? For like 10, you was with them for like 10 years, and then you ended up being with Ford for 15 years. Okay, were you with them like at the same time, or were they like together?
No, you have so when you're in New York or whatever market you're in, you really can only have one agency, right? Or you can have a mother agency like in New York, and then you can have an agency like in Los Angeles that could be a different agency or the same agent, and you can have them at the same time. But if you're in the New York market or whatever market you are, you have to have one agent. So my whole thing with going to Ford was like, after I modeled for like 10 years, I was able to make like a better deal as far as percentages because I was already established or whatever. And so there was twofold. It was like, okay, I can negotiate a better percentage for myself, paying less for them representing me. Plus I can pick up some new clients from, that Wilhelmina didn't have, that I already had, connections with, and now be open to a wider scope of clients. So that was my reasoning for going over to Ford.
Okay. Yeah, that was one of my questions too. Like you basically answered it. It was like, which agency did you like better? Like, so that,
and to be honest with you, it's like when you're with an agency, it's about the agent that you work with, right? So there's a lot of different agents. For the most part, most of the top agencies in New York get the same calls from the same people. They all work for Macy's, Bloomingdale's, whatever. I mean, that's a given. I mean, some clients have a better relationship with a certain agency or whatever. So it's your agent. You got to make sure that the agent that's representing you care enough about you and can have meetings with you to get you in front of the people that you haven't gotten in front of, right? And believed enough that they can get that for you and sell you in the way that client wants you to work for them. So it's really about the relationship that you forge with the person that's the agent that's representing you.
Okay. One question for like the beginning of your process, like what was the process of like signing and getting into the agency? Like how was that? Like, can you break it down a little bit?
Yeah. So, well, first of all, back in the day, Wilhelmina was like probably the top modeling agency in the world. And then, so you'd walk, and it was very intimidating. So you walk off, the elevator open, and then you saw all these posters of people like on cover of magazines and stuff like that. And you're sitting there waiting for your appointment to go in and see them, right? And then you have your talk with them or whatever. They look at whatever pictures you have started, and then they, they critique you. Sometimes they tell you, "Thank you, you're not our type," or whatever. And it could be very, letting you down or whatever.
Yeah.
But the actual process of being signed, once they sign you, it's an amazing experience. I mean, it's like you've been accepted, right? It's validation. And then it's very much changed now, but back in the day, we used to have so many more catalogs and opportunities to work. Even though they didn't have a lot of Black people in the agencies, the work in general was huge. I mean, there was before your time, I'm sure there was a Spiegel catalog that had like thousands of pages of models on it. There was
remember
a
that.
catalog, every catalog. So used to be at one point you'd be sitting at the agency once you were signed, and sometimes they had catalog houses that did the different magazines, and they would call you and say, "Oh, we need 2 models over here," and you'd be just going over. And initially, when you get signed, you had this thing called go-sees. So go-see was going and see a client. So that's what they used to call it. So like for the first 2 months of working, being signed, you were going out and meeting clients every day. So you'd have some days you had 5, some days you had 10 clients you'd see a day and show them your pictures and stuff like that. And that's how and then you'd leave them your composite card, which was your calling card. And then they would go through in their assessment if they felt you were their type or whatever. So then they'll have you in their approval list. And when the work came up, they will send them to you. So those are some good pictures, man.
Appreciate that.
But that's kind of like how they did it. It's like, and so you got a chance to meet the clients and be one-on-one, and you can sell yourself. I was telling Lowe's earlier, I don't know today if I could be as successful as I was back then, because my personality sold me in a lot of ways. I went in, met clients, I was really friendly with them, and it was genuine, and we had conversations, and they saw that I was easy to work with, and so they take me. Now it's like submission and videos and stuff like that. So that personal touch is no longer there, and so and then now it's much more saturated to the whole market. I mean, there's a lot more people now open to being models or whatever. So the competition is even greater now, I think, than it was back when I started.
I have another question. You kind of said something about mother agencies.
Yeah.
Are you familiar with talent agencies?
Talent as far as you mean as the name of the agency is Talent or no?
So
like for acting and different things like that.
Right. Okay. It's like branding and stuff like that.
Yeah. Right. So the whole world's changed now, right? So the whole branding thing is like a big thing, and how many followers you have and all that is a big part of it. And I mean, with social media, you can reach a lot more people. I'm not as familiar with it, but I know a bit of kind of how it works, like even the main agencies now, like, when IMG signed me, one of the things they wanted me to do was like build up my followers, how many followers I have and stuff like that. And that's like posting everything, right? But that's your world. You wake up in the morning, you take a picture, right? So you guys, before you take a bite of food, you post it, and so you have a lot of people getting engaged. I mean, Lowe's and I do that for 2 weeks and I'm done. I said, I can't take this much of me. It's the opportunities now, like if you can create something and stand out and have enough people interested in what you want to say, I mean, there's money in that, right? And there are people that that's how they build up their followership or whatever. So
Yeah.
now, you with an agency or no?
No, I'm actually in the process of like doing all of that.
Right.
Part of the photo shoots of what I've been doing is to take pictures that they want. Like, cause like you said, it's different now. So now you gotta like submit, you gotta send pictures to so when you go like to Ford models or something like that, they have a thing that you click, it says get scouted, and then that's basically you applying to become a model for them, and then they have certain pictures that they want you to take, and you know, they probably gonna ask you for like your measurements and stuff like that. They're also gonna ask you for your social media, and they want to see all of that. So, that's what I
that's changed. That whole thing has changed now. Yeah. So, but the one thing I would tell you, like, don't invest a bunch of money into taking a lot of pictures, right? Because the agencies, if you have the look that they're looking for, they will tell you, okay, we like you, and have them recommend somebody that they work with to take your pictures. You know what I mean? Because there's a lot of people out there trying to make money, right? And they want to take pictures of you or whatever. And they may take a great picture of you, but they might take you in front of something that kind of throws off what what makes you look better or whatever, right? And so you want to make sure that the photos that you're sending, because your time now is going to be so limited to you have like that one shot, right, to see a client. Right. And first impression is the most lasting one. So what I would say is, like, if you send the pictures that I just saw, they look really good. They show you, right? They show you can do fashion, whatever. Once you send your measurements and all that stuff to them, just see what their feedback is. And if they're interested, say, you know what, I know you want to see this kind of picture. Is there a photographer that you work with that I could reach out to and see if they'd like to photograph me? And then there's that connection already with them working with somebody. Then that person that they already have a commitment with, when you get in front of them, they might now be an advocate for you, saying to that agency, oh yeah, I worked with him, he was really good. Michael was like, was comfortable in front of the camera, is this, and then you have another in with that agency.
Okay. How was this shooting, like your photo shoots with the agencies and everything? Like when you went to go do your photo shoots, how was that experience for you? Like, how was it?
Yeah, so I, of course, before you go in, you have to take pictures, right? And you have to get somebody to take the pictures. So I had a friend that had taken the pictures for me, and then it was just enough for them to see, okay, he's photogenic or whatever. And then once they were interested, they said, okay, I want you to go do a test. It was called test photography. And they had a list of test photographers that they work with that knew the kind of pictures that they wanted and would style it the right way where it looked like a photo shoot or whatever. And then you go to them, and that's kind of how you build your portfolio before you actually start working. So that's what I did for like 6 months before the first time I went to GQ. And when I felt comfortable with those pictures, I liked them as much as my agent liked them. That's when I said, okay, I'm ready to see GQ. And then fortunately for me, my first impression, they bought. So I worked for them right away. Yeah.
So when an agency signs you, they assign you an agent like immediately right away?
Yeah, once they sign you, they start your career is now in their hands. So they'll start telling you, okay, you need to build your portfolio. I want you to go take some pictures with this person. You get the pictures, they take it, they choose which ones they want, and they start building your well, now they call it a deck, right? They start building a deck, and then they'll start sending interim. They might send you to here or there to see, a couple people. But then once your portfolio or your deck is where they want it to be, then they'll start submitting it to like a lot of people. And as things start coming in, where clients are looking for a particular look or person, if you fit that bill, you will be submitted, and it becomes competitive. I will say to you though, if you get to meet people, the best way to deal with the whole thing, because it's like, just because one person rejects you doesn't mean that you're not worthy, right? There's so many people going out for stuff. So for me, my defense mechanism when I went out for that was like, the first 5 minutes that I was in front of a client, I gave it my best shot. And once I walked out of there, I didn't think about it anymore, because it's like, at that point, it was in their hands.
Yeah.
If you start thinking about it and stressing yourself out, it's not going to be a good thing. And people sense desperation too. Like when you get in front of them, I mean, it's different now because they have you take photos and submit it rather than actually meeting the clients face to face a lot of time. But that's, like I said, you're going to get what's going to be for you is going to be for you. And once you hit it, you get one, it starts kind of snowballing, because now people see you in a certain light and they actually see you working and doing a job. And then that's how it builds.
Well, hey, Michael. So I think one day we're going to have to, go over to Alvin and Friends for lunch.
Right?
Yeah. I got a lot of questions.
I can see it on your face. Yeah, we may have to go to. And
welcome anytime, man. Reach out anytime. I'm always open to answering questions and helping out. Each one bring one. Right?
That was actually one of my questions. It was actually like probably gonna be my last question. I was saving it for that, like the end. And I was gonna ask like do you mind kind of being like a mentor for me, because I really don't have nobody to really ask questions and bounce ideas off or anything like that has any experience that could really
I'm more than happy to, man. I've done it for a lot of people. Even when I was modeling, when agencies only had 5 of us in the agency, I would actually bring other Black models into my agency, and my agent was like, "Are you crazy?" And I'm like, you know what? If the job is gonna be for me, I always feel that way. If a job is gonna be for me, it's gonna be for me. I mean, even with my restaurant, people say like, "Oh, who's your competition?" I'm like, I'm my competition. I just do the best that I can do, and let the chips fall where they may. When you're running a race, if you're looking back, the guy's gaining on you, right? You got to keep your focus and do you, and do the best you can do. Looking for, starting out though, look in magazines, see who looks kind of like in your category, take, replicate some of those pictures, right? And that's the kind of thing. So then at least you're within that wheelhouse of where you're supposed to be. But like, again, feel free. Lowe's, you can give my information, man. And, you can reach out anytime, bro.
All right. Michael, thank you, man. I appreciate you, man. I thought about you, man, when and I knew you had a lot of questions.
Yeah, I was gonna shout you out for that. Thank you for giving me the heads up, is allowing me to be on your platform and just thinking of me and for this opportunity.
And good luck, man. The pictures look good. What I saw.
All right, thank you. Hopefully we go to your restaurant and I'll show you some things that I didn't. So yeah, I got a lot of pictures that I didn't even post yet.
All right, yeah. And that's another thing. Be careful, just make sure the right pictures at the right time.
All right.
All right, Michael. Thanks, man. Appreciate you. All right, man. Yeah. I love to get when they're young, man. They energy,
so. I got it, man. I was there too.
Yeah, especially when you don't know, and you got a thought about what it is that you want to do, but you don't know.
Yeah.
One of the things I was reading this book, not on who, not how, but because sometimes you may know how, you get to a point where you need a who.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Who is very important sometimes.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. You need who's. So as we come to a close, man, I want to talk a little bit more about the love of your art. Because I've seen some pictures over the years as I was in the restaurant. I've seen some things that you posted. I mean, what's the inspiration when it comes to?
So it's just like life, man. First of all, it's it's like breathing for me, man. I need it. You know, the process of painting, of creating, is very important to me. I mean, I love going to a blank canvas and bringing it to life, man. It's like, you know, I was really intrigued with like Ernie's interview earlier, Ernie Barnes, because I felt a lot of the same thing. And, you know, you express what you want to say in that canvas. You know, one of the things that actually was really important that he said to me that I didn't pay attention to before, but I love how he phrased it about why he has the eyes closed. Because I did a painting. I was in New Orleans last year. My daughter went for graduation, and I'm walking through Bourbon Street, and you know, they have the kids are entertaining the tourists as they walk by and stuff. And there was a kid, they beat the buckets to make sound like a drum, right? And I saw this mother with like a 4-year-old kid. She was like forcing him to beat the drums. And in that moment, he was crying. And I was like, that's their reality. You know, here we are, we're tourists, right? And walking around, we have the hurricane drinks and, you know, spending money and everything else. And this little boy has to perform for us. And so I did a painting of it. And in the painting, I didn't put any faces on the Black performers because we don't even know their stories, right? We're just walking along. And so that's the kind of things that I bring to the work that I do. I'm very conscious about every aspect of what I'm trying to put on canvas. You know, I try to stay away from political stuff, but in this environment, you can't. And I think, you know, I think as an artist, if you're being true to yourself, I mean, I'm multifaceted and my life is not one-dimensional. So as much as I have to deal with the happy things, and the happy things are showing us in a positive light, you know, fathers with their kids and families together. I paint that stuff because that's who we are and that's our reality. But then there are political things that affect us in a certain way as well. Yeah. And I think it's just as important to have those issues on canvas, you know, so that it's not whitewashed or you know, we need to have our voices heard also on how things make us feel. So.
Well, yeah, that's it. I mean, then when you tell a story about the picture, right? And then in your legacy, when somebody has that picture on the wall, somebody says, oh, what's that picture about?
Yeah.
You know, somebody has to know the story, you know, of the picture, and they could talk about a time in history.
Yeah.
And a reason why, you know, that was painted and what was on the mind of the artist at the time.
Artist, yeah. It tells the times what was going on, you know.
Right. Yeah. Well, man, I appreciate you, man. This has been fun, man.
Honor, man. I'll give you a little tidbit though. I'm working on a new project. I'm working with a group called the Soiree Group. So as you see in New Rochelle, there's all these buildings going up, right? So we're working on One Clinton Place, which is one of the newer buildings, and the ground section we're planning to do a food hall, so we can do like 7 different concept restaurants, and it's an opportunity for young chefs to actually be able to be entrepreneurs without having to spend the money that it really takes to open a big restaurant. So we're working with somebody from like Johnson & Wales with new chefs coming out and stuff like that. And we're going to have an anchor restaurant and an anchor bar in this spot. And it's going to be changing from Westchester, man. Another Black excellence coming out. So
yeah, well, man, I love that. I love that. No, I love that. That's an opportunity. You know, something I was mentioning at the event last night when we started. My sister and Marion Archer was doing some. I was working with the recreation department, and I was in charge of the Dole Center and different places like that. And I helped them, you know, get into dance, you know, to start the dance for the city. Yeah. And then they were doing modeling, you know, so it's teaching the girls how to model, teach the girls how to dance. And when you do things like that, I mean, that's powerful. You know, when people see, you know, the opportunity, you know, and if we don't do it, then who will? And, I always question my son, Losey, about, the industry that he's in, and, and why another person would not introduce, if you're a young person into this world, because they say, okay, well, we're all competing for the same job. No, you're not. You're not competing with Denzel. I mean, you're not competing with, all these other people. You're competing with the other starters like yourself, or who has been in it. So hopefully one day we'll get to the point where we realize that it's going to take somebody to open that door and give you an opportunity.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So, but man, love you, man. Love the food.
we had fun, man. We had fun. This is like people were flies on the wall. We were just kicking it.
That's right. Yeah. Yeah. Just kicking it. That's right. Well, that's what the blueprint is about. I get on, we get on and we just kick it and we have a good time. Yeah. And hopefully people, hear something, see something that they like, something that could, particularly during the pandemic, man, I wanted people to have hope. Yeah. I wanted people to be encouraged, because it was a time where everybody we had questions about what was going on. We don't know what tomorrow holds. We weren't thinking about what the future looked like, man. We were just trying to make it from day to day. Yeah. So I wanted to come on with the blueprint and say, hey, listen to some people, because everybody assumed Alvin woke up one day and somebody gave him a restaurant. I mean, they don't understand process sometimes. Yeah. And so many of the guests who come on have become successful, right? But everybody's going through a process in order to become successful. So yeah, I thank you. I appreciate you sharing. And man, make sure you tell Gwen I said hello.
I will, man, and congratulations again, man. 4 years, and keep it going. And you're doing a positive thing, man. I appreciate you.
Yeah, I appreciate you too. Thank you very much. And I'm gonna close out now. So again, I want to say thank you to everyone that supports the Blueprint Podcast each and every week. Man, I love you guys, man, and I look forward to seeing you each and every week. My guest next week is Richard Dolphin. It's going to be a wonderful conversation again. So again, I leave you with my words are each week. If God allows you to wake up tomorrow, make tomorrow your masterpiece. I love you guys, and I'll see you next week.
We really hope you enjoyed this episode of Lowe's More, the Blueprint Podcast. Stay connected and follow us at our website, www.lowesmore.com. That's LOWESMOORE.com. You can also join the discussion on Twitter at Lowe's More and on Facebook at Lowe's More Jr. As always, thank you for pushing your mindset towards a better reality. This concludes the most thought-provoking portion of your day. Don't forget to like and subscribe to this podcast to stay fully up to date with everything we're up to. Until next time, be kind to yourself and each other.
What they teaching is a joke. I ain't buying it like I'm broke. Insufficient funds for insignificant.